Hello everyone, I wanted to shoot this quick video to give you an overview of the ExtraHop UI, talk a little bit about the new features and some of the features that you might have missed in the UI that are very helpful as you're walking through and working with your ExtraHop box. So what we're looking at here is the generic activity dashboard that comes with the box, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the time selector. So here we're looking at the last 30 minutes in the environment and just looking at the packets by layer 7 protocol. So the volume of packets coming through, and looking at the top 7 protocols just to give you an overview of your environment, what's coming in. And then scrolling down, you'll find details of every protocol, some of the errors that we've seen at a high level, and any of these charts are clickable. You can click and you can drill through and dig a little deeper into the data. So looking at the time selector, one key feature is the comparison button. So you can compare what you're seeing right now for, let's say, the last 30 minutes against 30 minutes yesterday, same time period. If you click save, now you can see the time selector changes at the top here to reflect that, and you can see the same thing happens here. You can see that the last 30 minutes in the environment today versus 30 minutes a day ago. So this comes in really handy when you're troubleshooting an issue right now and just want to look at anomalous behavior and see if was this happening yesterday? Is this normal? Is it not? You can quickly do that. You can do it a day ago, a week ago, whatever time interval you're interested in. And this is sticky throughout the product. So if you pivot through the dashboards, you will get the same time selector with the comparison. As you can see, the same thing happens in the different charts. So we can quickly spot any anomalous behavior in your environment. So in this video, I want to talk about the 4 tabs at the top, dashboards, briefly touched on right now, metrics, records, and packets. And the whole idea here is to focus on workflow and to talk about how you can move seamlessly between these 4 tabs as you're troubleshooting an issue, or you're discovering or exploring the data that you have in your environment. So the metrics tab talks about the different metrics we're collecting and talks about the discovery of devices as well. So with ExtraHop, we will auto discover all your devices and we'll auto classify these devices as well. So what we're seeing here, this is a page with the top 20 results, or the first 20 results, and we've discovered about 986 devices. And in the device discovery process, we're completely passive. We're not polling anything. We're just listening and on the side. So we will discover the MAC addresses of your devices, the IP addresses, when in time they were discovered by ExtraHop, and we'll also give it a name. And that name can be extracted either from DNS queries that we've heard over the wire, or DHCP names. It could be CDP, it could be NetBIOS. So we will attach these names to the device, and now they're searchable as well. So you can look for your devices by name, in addition to searching for them by IP. I mentioned auto classification, so that is done also out of the box, no configuration necessary at all. And with this, you basically have a complete inventory of all the devices that you have in your environment and what they're actually doing. So in the last 30 minutes, this is the list of all the different groups for devices and what they're doing. So as you can see here, we've seen 27 DNS servers in the last 30 minutes. So basically, these are devices that are acting as DNS servers. They're responding to DNS requests coming to them. And this is very useful to know exactly what's in your environment. Many times we go into an environment to do a POC and we discover something like this, 27 DNS servers, and we talk to the folks in that account and they tell us, Well, that can't be right. We don't have more than 4 DNS servers. Actually, we know that we only have 4 DNS servers. What gives? And what happens is a lot of times um, there are Windows boxes in there that have DNS listening by default that they didn't shut off. Sometimes they actually have rogue devices acting as DNS, which is a little more scarier. And with ExtraHop, very simply and very easily, you can click on the group and it'll give you the complete list of all the devices that are in there in the DNS server. If I go back, I want to show you another thing that we can actually search, like I mentioned before, by name for any of the devices that we're interested in. So this device, Xenon, is a web server. I know that, and I have an icon here that actually tells me that this is mostly doing web traffic, and I can look at this device from layer 2 to layer 7 in the OSI model. I can also see what protocols that this device is doing, and if I go to L7 protocols, I'll get a list of these devices. List of these protocols. If I click on any of these protocols, I can tell you the peer devices for this specific device for HTTP. As you can see, these two devices are HTTP clients of this HTTP server. Now, all I want to show you here is the ability to create an activity map from any of the devices you're interested in, or from a group of devices. In this case, I'm going to draw this activity map. I'm going to output the activity map in a PDF form. You can have it as a Visio or a simple picture. You can also choose to include all network traffic or a subset of that network traffic, so maybe web server traffic only. In this case, I want to see everything, and I want to label that as well. So you can see it gives you a quick hint of how many devices it's going to render, and it spits out a PDF that you can take a look at very quickly. So if you're troubleshooting, or if you're trying to map out an application and you want to know who's talking to it, this is a map that is time dependent. So you can see this is in the last 30 minutes, and it's also device dependent. So meaning that this is the device that I drew the map for, but I can see all the other devices talking to it, and they are hyperlinks. So if I click on any of these devices, it'll actually take me back into the UI and pivot it directly on that device to it, so I can investigate further. So from here, you can see that this Xenon web server, it has HTTP clients. This is an HTTP client, another HTTP client. It's actually a database, a MySQL database client to a database server called LED, and it's doing DNS NTP to this router, and somebody's SSHing into the box directly. So this becomes very useful again when you're mapping out an application to understand the flows for this application. So in case of data center migrations, a lot of folks come in and talk to us about that, and we help very well when it comes to data center migrations to understand and have the visibility of who's talking to who and mapping out applications that way. The other thing is when you're decommissioning a device, when is it safe to take it offline? So being able to see that and maybe draw the map for a week's worth of data and make sure that there isn't any application that really depends on this device, and then it's time to take it. Then it's safe to take it offline. So that's another use case. So just to show you the functionality, if I click on one of those devices, it will take me directly onto that device in the ExtraHop UI. Just give it a second here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And there we go. We're on that LED device, onto database right away, and we can continue our troubleshooting efforts. Now going back, I want to talk a little bit about the Records tab at the top. Excuse me. So with the Records tab, this is where you actually want to explore further the data that you have. So here you see every single transaction that traversed the wire in the last 30 minutes. And it's all broken down by the different record types that we have. So in this case, I'm interested in looking at web traffic. So I'm going to click on web traffic, and it's going to filter down my records down to 178,000 records for web in the last 30 minutes. And if you take a quick look here, we can see the client IP, the server IP for web, and you can see the different methods, you can see the status codes, you can see the URIs coming in and how long each of them have taken in milliseconds, the processing time for each of those URIs, and you can see how many bits and bytes. There's also a number of other metrics that you can include by just clicking on any of these. It will, for example, if I want to see the refer, I can quickly see the refer for these web for these URIs. So you can add and remove any of those metrics at will if you wish. You can also group. So if I'm interested in seeing all my all my web traffic for by URI, for example, I can start typing here. So I want to group it by URI in the last 30 minutes, and right away it's going to give you which URIs have been accessed the most. You can click on any one of those, and from here you create a filter for that. And notice this is what we call visual query language. We don't ask any of our customers to learn a new query language. This is just plain point and click. We always like to joke around that, you know, if you know how to use a mouse, then congrats, you're a data scientist. But anyway, here we see the number of records definitely came down from 100 and something thousand down to 69,000 just specifically for this URI. And then I can take this a step further and say I want to group this by client IPv4 address. So I want to see all the client IPs that came in to access this specific URI. So if I take this out and I want, notice the workflow here. Let's say I'm investigating or looking at my data and I'm looking at this specific URI, and from here I'm not satisfied with the metrics that I have. I want to get the actual raw packets. So I can actually click this button here where it says packets, and this will take me directly to the fourth and final tab for packets, and this gives you the direct access to the packets for the 2 IP addresses and ports already filtered for you. So you can simply download this PCAP. It says 14 packets, about 4.8 kilobytes of data, and right away it's downloaded for you. You can see here the headers, you can see the flags, the SYN, the SYNAC, the ACT. So from a workflow perspective, it's very, very simple to pivot around, explore the data, filter on something that's of interest to you, and you can go down directly and grab those packets if necessary. I can remove these filters, and you can see the window expands, and you can see now I have 8 gigs worth of packets, and notice how fast this is to render. So gone are the days where you have to have a profiler and then, you know, grab the PCAP and open in Wireshark, apply a filter, and then you know, hope the filter is what you're looking for, and that probably takes maybe 15 minutes or something, and then if it's not the right filter, you have to, you know, filter again and wait and so on. This is very simple to do. So let's say you're interested in a specific IP address. You can select that IP address, and now we're down to looking at the peers of this IP in the last 30 minutes. You can select any one of those peers. You get right away the protocol, the TCP, the port, and again another download ready for you to go. In this case, this is port 445 for CIFS traffic. That's why we have a lot of packets. It's a very chatty protocol. But as you can see, it's very simple to filter through and grab the information that is of interest to you. One more thing I want to talk about here, actually 2 more things. The history button, I used it once during this video, but it's a very handy button. It shows you exactly where you've been, and it actually keeps a record of the any comparisons that you've done on a dashboard, and you can go quickly back in time to what you were troubleshooting or what you were looking at. I guess I didn't click it properly. Let's go back. There we go. So this will take you back to the activity dashboard that I started off with the comparison for the last 30 minutes versus a day ago. And One last thing I want to talk about is the global search functionality. So that Xenon device that we were talking about earlier, if I type Xenon, I can do two things. I can either search, I can actually go onto that device, and like I showed how to draw an activity map and look at the layer 2 to layer 7 traffic and so on, I can go directly on that device. Or I can actually do a global query search, and this will take me onto the records tab, and it's going to search all my transactions for that string, as you can see here, in any field with the string Xenon in it. So I see web records and DNS records. So if I go ahead and click on DNS requests, from here I can see that it was actually searching and it captured this on the queries for DNS for the device Xenon. So basically what this is telling me is that these clients were querying these DNS servers for Xenon, and you can see you can filter this by quad A for IPv6 or for IPv4, and we can go and pivot through the information again. I can look at the packets and so on. So I hope this has been helpful, just to give you a very brief look at the UI and how to navigate, and pretty much to talk about the workflow, how to find what you're looking for very easily, and even go back in history and help you with the troubleshooting efforts. So hopefully this has been helpful, and thanks for watching.